Welcome back to another episode of Carson's Kanye Crusade. And on this episode, we're going to be listening to Kanye's most divisive album in recent history, I would say. Solely for the fact for how different it is compared to literally everything else that he has done up until this point. So, we're going to be talking about Jesus is King. Now, sure. Last time, we did a second collab album. You thought it was okay, decent. It was alright. We also had some reevaluations of previous works. So, going into this album, what do you expect to get out of it?
Well, I think you just told me to unexpect whatever I expected.
Right, and I do think its title as well also kind of gives it away. Jesus is King. If you had to guess, what would be like a central idea for this album sonically?
I expect to hear a lot of organs.
Well, that is definitely one part of the puzzle, but again, like I said, this is a very different album compared to everything else. So you might enjoy it for that, Mac. You might not enjoy it for that fact. We'll just have to wait and see. This album was basically like a pretty big shock to most people at the time. If we ever do eventually do the retrospective history of his escapades throughout the years, I'll give like a good lore dump on this album to give like a quick rundown. He was going to make another album, scrapped it, released this that was completely different to what was already teased slash leaked, and people were very divided about it. But that's for a future discussion. So if we don't have anything else to say,
But
or
what
we
if
won't
I
even move
did
on.
have something to say?
Oh, what do you have to say, Holscher?
What if I talk about the Kanye West fever dream I had when I was crazy sick?
Okay, let's. I guess we could talk about that quickly before we start the album. But what was your crazy fever dream?
So there's this Linux YouTuber named Luke Smith, and I showed you a clip of that man in the Discord conversation earlier.
Everything I want to do is illegal.
I watched it while I
I
was on the
had a
toilet.
dream where he and Kanye West were the same guy.
Okay, you're gonna have to elaborate because that guy does not look like Kanye West.
You wouldn't have listened to any of Luke Smith's live streams back in the day. He doesn't really do YouTube anymore, but I guess that's why it happened, is because some stuff he said on live streams kind of sounds like something I imagine Kanye would say.
Tweak this just to make it extra easy for you. Actually, I should probably delete this line. It's just for illustrative purposes.
Well, I guess I'll have to take a little deep dive into some of the crazy stuff he has said on live and see if it's comparable to what Kanye has said in a public. Very little interesting tidbit. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, I'm done derailing the show.
Well, you know what? That's the fun of this. We just get to talk about silly stuff. But without any further ado, we will start the album properly with the very first track to set the mood to the album.
Every hour.
Why do I have to go through 6 hours of this crap? Why did I come back for another night?
Well, that was Every Hour. What did you think of that track, Carson?
I think it is good to start with a question here. Where's the rapper?
Well, that is a good question. Just to spoil the rest of the album, this is a gospel album, like a very mainly gospel, Christianity influenced album. During this, again, to give like a little lore dump, again, Kanye was going to, during this time in 2019, he was going to be a reborn Christian era. And this sort of is on the same thing with Donda, but not to a lesser extent. But with this album, he wanted to basically like involve a lot more choir elements to the sound of it. And I think, again, that first track demonstrates that. So that's kind of the answer to that question as to why he wasn't on this track. I wish I could give you a better answer, but that's the best of my ability. But what did you think of that track itself?
I give it a score of okay. It was a bit repetitive. I really would have liked to see Kanye on a Kanye track.
I do
It's
think.
okay. I'm not upset to see it or anything. It's just fine.
Were you expecting this to be like the first? Like, was this like a very like different thing to expect for an
I
opener
definitely
track?
wasn't expecting this.
Like, that's perfectly fair. I also think that track's okay. I do like the piano. I like the piano work on it. You know, I think that's pretty cool. I do wish that lyrically it was a bit better. It does get a little repetitive, I think Kanye rapping on a beat like this with like the pianos going hard would be crazy. But we do not live in that world, unfortunately. I think that track was alright. If we do not have anything else to say about that track, we will move on to the next one, which is...
I have no fucking clue how to pronounce that.
I think it's pronounced Saleya. Hold on. I'm gonna do a quick Google. Sela, sorry. Sela, which is the biblical Hebrew word for uncertain meaning. I fucked that up. So yeah, maybe this track will be unknown.
Do this. What I learned in boarding school is... My fucking nose! My fucking nose! Fucking nose! Fucking nose! School is...
Well, that was Saleya Hulsher. Were you Saleya about that track?
It's better than the previous track.
That's fair. It did have Kanye rapping, so that automatically probably makes it better, in your opinion, right?
It does. I'm hesitant to say that's amazing, but I'll say it's okay.
You said you're hesitant to say it's amazing. Could you elaborate on that?
I feel like I'm still very taken aback by the different style of this album, such that I'm not really sure if the opinion that I'm giving reflects the same kind of opinion I'd give on a re-listen, knowing what to expect ahead of time.
That's fair. I could understand that. Again, this is a very different style of album that he's making, so you might hear something and be like, "That wow, this is incredible." First listen, then you really listen, it's like, okay, well, it's kind of just all right,
Yeah.
So I can definitely respect that. But overall, did you like that track?
It was fine. Can't still really rock my world or anything, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think that track's fine so far. Yeah, I think Kanye had a good flow starting out. It's like it rises, and then it cuts to the choir. I like that. But overall, I think it is just all right. I think there probably just needs like a little bit more instrumentation for it to really work, in my opinion. But I definitely do agree that is better than the beginning track, in my opinion. But if we do not have anything else to say, we will move on to the next track. Follow God.
Now that we got that out of the way, where's my presents? I'm a good boy now. So
No, you're not gonna be getting good Christmas presents this year!
but I converted. I'm a Christian now.
No, you disrespected God!
Well, that was Follow God. What'd you think of that track?
I think I heard it before.
You have heard it before?
I think so.
Do you know where you could have heard this before?
I do. You were showing me samples from the new album. In the ending bit of this track came up.
The sample bits from Donda 2? Or
I think Kanye had showed some stuff for Bully, and you were streaming in a Discord call.
maybe. That does very familiar. I'm not sure. But also it could just be the fact this is the most popular track off this album for good reason. I think that is probably the best track off this album overall, in my opinion. But what did you think of that song?
It's fine. I don't think it's bad. I also don't think it's Kanye's best work. It's just okay.
Yeah, whenever it comes to like this album, like it's just the most like upbeat, and I would say like the most old school Kanye. Like it still has like a fast beat, sample in the background, him rapping, about like issues, problems like with like his family struggles and like trying to adjust to like a new religious lifestyle. Can be a little crazy. And I think that's probably just why I like that one the most off this album, because it's still like, okay, it's still taking the new direction, but still have the old school there. You know what I mean? I think that's just probably like the most interesting song off this album. But if we do not have anything else to say about that track, we will move on to the next song, which is Closed on Sunday.
What she order?
Well, that was Closed on Sunday. What'd you think of that track?
Once again, it's fun.
There could be I think I'm sensing a theme here, Holster.
I think that fine could become more than fine upon a re-listen. But for now, I'll just say it's fine.
What do you think about the Chick-fil-A line?
I don't think much of anything about it, good or bad.
I was just wondering because I know a lot of people kind of clown that line for being kind of stupid. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of stupid. Listening to it back.
Seems like something Hunter would say.
No, I think that'd be Philip. Philip would be more of the food. Called on Sunday? What am I gonna do? Terrified at that thought. I think that track's also fine. I do like the lyrics though, of like trying to protect your family. I guess like this whole coming to theme as well of like, you know, you've done so much wrong in the past and like how like a degenerate lifestyle you've lived. You know, you want to try to like better it for both yourself and for your future generations. I think that is like a nice sentiment to have. It does kind of spoil the fact, you know, knowing now what had happened, that messaging kind of loses a little bit of its meaning, but I still think as like a storytelling device of trying to protect those you love, it's still pretty adamant in my opinion. But if we do not have anything else to say about that track, we will move on to On God. Well, that was On God. And I could probably guess what you're going to say about that track, sure. But I'll ask anyway. What did you think of that track?
It's pretty good. We're going somewhere.
Alright, well dang, I guess I guessed wrong. I thought you were going to say it's just fine.
Despite sounding nothing like it, its instrumentation really reminds me of Hopes and Dreams from Undertale.
I feel like that's also a very theme. Like a very interesting theme. I feel like almost every album review since Pablo, you've had at least one comparison to either Deltarune or Undertale.
I have had none of those. Actually, I think for the entirety of this podcast, I've compared to Persona and Amori quite a lot.
Well, I knew you had that one remix on Pablo for FML that you made, like the little mashup.
Yeah, it's Amori.
Oh, that's Amori? Fuck,
Yeah.
I'm retarded. Sorry.
Great game, you should play it.
But you enjoyed that track?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
What'd you like about it?
It had the grooviness that the previous tracks in this album lacked. I enjoy a groovy track. Nothing too big-brained for me to say here.
That's fair. I do think it does have like a lot more energy to it compared to the other tracks. You know, it is like the other ones were a lot more either downbeat or the energy was more, I guess you could say, acoustic. You know, this is more like your typical like hip-hop beat with Kanye rapping over it. But I also thought that track was fine. Did get a little bit repetitive with how many times he said On God, but you know, it's nothing that I've heard that hasn't been more repetitive on previous albums or even on this album. But I thought that track was fine. But if we do not have anything else to say about that track, we will move on to Everything We Need.
I don't need it.
Well, that was Everything We Need. What'd you think of that track, Carson?
Man, that was weird. Weird.
That's interesting. Well, what if I told you that that was for a completely separate album, that he just grabbed that completed track and like edited it slightly?
I suppose I would. You would know.
Yeah, because that's what happened basically. That's why it kind of sounds so weird.
Well, glad I missed that album.
Well, he didn't release it. You wouldn't even hear it really in the first place. So. Fortunately or unfortunately. I should probably, since I brought that up, I guess I should bring up that album. We'll go more in detail if we do the history video, like I said, but to make a very long story short, originally in 2018, Kanye was supposed to release a different album called Yandi, which again, it's sort of like a sequel album to Yeezus, you know, Yeezus, Yay, Jesus, combine those words, Yay, Gandhi, Yandi, you know, it's like a silly name convention. It's mainly notable for being like heavily promoted everywhere, like tweets, like advertisements all around cities, and he just didn't drop it. He forgot to. He didn't finish it. He still went on for a little bit. Then he dropped Jesus is King. He took some songs off of that Yandi album, put them on this album, and then some on Donda. He even made reference to Yandi on this track on a previous song, Soleil, I believe, if I'm remembering it right. I know that we were just listening to that track, but it felt so long ago. It was the line, people wanted Yandi, but Jesus Christ, they needed Jesus instead of Yandi. That's basically what he was saying, so that's why that song sounded so different compared to everything else, well, sure. You pick up on Putting Down?
Yeah.
But in saying all that, did you enjoy that track? Even though it was very weird.
It was okay. And knowing where it came from, I think I like it slightly less.
That's fair. If we do get bored, we could do like a special episode where we do unreleased albums / tracks that are very notable. But I feel like that would be a whole nother like can of worms to go through.
Could be fun.
But maybe in the future we could play the Yandi version. Because that is also another thing to note. The entire album for Yandi also leaked on Apple Music the day it was actually supposed to release, and then it got taken down. So technically it did release for like a day, but then it got removed. And then people were able to compare like songs from that to this, and then to some tracks on Donda. It was just a very, very interesting and weird time. But as for the track itself for this album, I think that track was alright. I think Ty Dolla $ign's chorus is pretty good. Fits very well with even like the theme of this album. I think the verses are okay. I do think the title drop is a little weird, auto-tune, but overall I think that track's okay. Again, I think this is also another one of those like it's alright albums. Like, I wouldn't say it's bad, it's just whatever. Which I mean, depending on who you ask, that could be worse than just being straight up bad. But if we do not have anything else to say, we move on to the next track, which is Water.
Like we always do it this time.
Well, that was Water. Culture, did that track make you feel like you were being waterboarded?
No, it did not. It was a very interesting track.
Interesting in a good way or a bad way, would you say?
I don't think it was bad. I'm not quite willing to say it was good, but it was interesting.
That's fair. And the track's alright. Don't really have that much to say. I do think the Kanye rapping part's a little awkward without any like backing beat to it, and it just doesn't really flow well with the rest of the track sonically, in my opinion. But I think that track's okay. I say, and I don't really have anything to say about this album.
Fair enough.
This is sort of another Watch the Throne situation. It seems like, where it's just like it's not bad, but it's not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think that there will be any ham on this album to sort of save it.
Damn shame.
It is. It's a ham shame. I thought you said that. That's easy. Funny joke.
This is very much not what Kanye is suited to.
Yeah, definitely. I could definitely agree with that opinion. But if we do not have anything else to say, we will move on to the next track. God Is.
God is what?
God is good. God is great. God is good. Nigger.
Well, that was God Is. Now, Carson, is that track godly, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think so.
You like that track?
Yeah, it's been better than a lot of what we've seen out of this album.
I would concur in that opinion. I think this is probably, I know I said that Follow God is my favorite track off this album, but if I had to pinpoint the song to sort of define this album, would be that one, just for how well it uses both like the choir and like the orchestral instruments, and like lyrically, performance-wise, it's all pretty solid in my opinion. Do you have any thoughts about that track?
I think the presence of the much more well-defined beat allowed Kanye to do his thing more effectively. And I think if we had more of that in the other tracks, this album would probably be a little bit better for it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think like doesn't really feel Kanye-esque. I know that is a criticism that has been labeled for this album. I do think he was a lot more restrained with when it comes to like production-wise for this album, which could be an interesting route to take, but I don't think the way they executed it really helped it in its case for how different it is compared to everything else that he has done. You know what I mean?
I do.
But if we do not have anything else to say, we will move on to the next track, which is Hands On. Well, that was Hands On. What'd you think of that track, Holscher?
It was pretty good. It's not very rappy, but I guess in this particular case, the auto-tune is almost an instrument in and of itself. And I like that. It sounds good. It doesn't sound anything at all like what I would expect out of Kanye, but it's good.
Alright, that's fair. I do think it is a lot more spacious, very different compared to the rest of this album, like you said. A lot more reliant on like auto-tuned vocals compared to like the raw gospel sound that this album has produced so far. It's very different and very nice change of pace. I think that track was pretty decent overall, in my opinion. But if we do not have anything to say about that track, we will move on to Use This Gospel.
I said, oh Lord Jesus, it's a fire.
Well, that was Use This Gospel. What'd you think of that track?
Oh, what could have been?
What could have been? Okay, so it sounds like you were disappointed by this track.
Yeah, we finally have that beat drop in the ending. And I think if we did that sooner rather than later, such that we had a beat going during the time that people were actually rapping, that could have been a pretty good song.
Or maybe like that's like a build-up to the beat drop, and then like the real rapping starts and it goes crazy.
That would have been good too.
I concur. But overall thoughts, you were disappointed by that track?
Yeah. I've observed it could have been much better than it actually was.
Do you like other aspects to it besides the disappointing beat drop?
I must admit I mostly just focused on the beat drop and did not focus on the other things. So I can't really say much else about it.
That's fair. I think that track's also alright. I do like the chorus. That was probably the best part of the song. Actually, I would say the second best part. My opinion, the best part of that song was the sax solo leading up to the beat drop. You know who did that sax solo?
I do not.
Person? Kenny G.
Who?
It was in that one SpongeBob episode where Squidward wanted to go to I think his name was Kelpie G in the episode. But I think that's where my knowledge of him comes from.
It is with great regret that I inform you that I did not watch SpongeBob as a kid.
You're the second person that I have talked to
Man, I think
that
I
has
missed
not
out.
watched SpongeBob. You did. You missed out on one of the greatest shows from season 1 to season 3.
Man,
There's nothing stopping you from watching it now. No fault in watching SpongeBob at 21 years old.
22
You know what I mean?
actually.
Damn, Unk status.
Indeed.
I'm sorry, I've been tick-tarted out on my mind.
You wish you was Unk.
Listen, I got a month left until I'm Unk status. Yeah, I think after that little ramble, I think that track was alright. If we do not have anything else to say, we will finish off this disappointing experience with the final track, Jesus is Lord.
That's it? That's the
Album closer.
That was just a bunch of cheap.
Brass instruments.
What a rip.
That's the whole thing.
Yep, it was only 54 seconds, Holscher.
It was wonderful. It was short.
One could say short and sweet, or was that bittersweet?
It was bittersweet poetry. I thought we were building up to something awesome there.
Yeah, I concur.
Man,
I think that like imagine a beat drop on that though.
oh,
How crazy
that would have
that
been
could
so
be.
good. It would have been
I'm guessing
wonderful.
would have been a great way to cap off the album, even though if it was mostly mediocre. But I guess from your audible disappointment of it ending so abruptly, you were disappointed by that track.
Yeah, Kanye's just blue balling us today.
Yeah, I can't even forget about his two things, his blackballs though. We can't blackball them.
3 things that are hairy.
But that concludes Jesus is King. Now, I could probably already guess what this ranking of this album is going to be, but if you had to rank this entire album as itself, what would you give this on a scale from 0 to 10.
Alright, would you like me to give reasoning first or number first?
I think number, then reasoning, because I think I could probably already guess what the number's going to be. But I kind of just want to hear your reasons for it.
See, I'm struggling here, because I could give it a 5 or a 6.
Okay.
There are moments where I was really leaning towards giving it a 5, and there's moments where I was thinking, maybe this could be a 6. I think I'm going to give it a 6. And the
Okay.
reason for this is, I feel like if I give it a 5, I will end up changing my mind and making it a 6 later. Because I think a lot of those songs would probably grow on me a little bit after a re-listen or two. However, I just don't really see it being better than something like Watch the Throne. Thoroughly mediocre. I think, in a lot of ways, it's almost like Kanye is trying to be Rick Astley. And not doing it very well.
That's an interesting comparison. I know we've talked about, or you've talked about Rick Astley and his musical journey. That is a very interesting comparison to bring up. But I kind of respect that. I feel like some of the blue balling on this album probably plays into the effect of why it's a little bit more disappointing than usual. If they actually built on that, I think it would probably be higher for me as well. But unfortunately, it was not built there. There was some moments I do like. I could see some of the vision with his like Christian symbolism or theming, but I still think overall the execution wise was not handled the greatest. That's just me. Any final words of this album, Carson?
Yes, I have lots of final words. I think
All right.
if this album were given a little more time in the oven, it probably would have turned out a lot better. I think if we mixed a little more beats into these songs, it probably would have helped. But regrettably, such things did not happen.
Yeah, I mean that's also what happens when you take a skeleton of a scrapped album and try to push it into a whole new format. You sort of end up with that sort of Frankenstein album of mixed match ideas that sort of work together but also sort of don't work.
On second thought, since we're talking about Kanye returning to religion and you've spoiled that, he falls off the wagon at some point.
Yeah, a little bit.
It is very difficult to stay on the wagon.
It is. It is incredibly difficult to stay on the wagon when it comes to the man, the myth, the legend that is Kanye Omari West. I think that's just what keeps it interesting. You never know what's going to happen.
And also, on the topic of Kanye and religious music, I feel like his first 2 albums did at least do a little bit of that. I think I liked a little
Yeah,
bit of that, but not a lot of that.
I think religion has always been sort of a subtextual thing for Kanye and like how important it was for him growing up. When he talked about it, like on previous tracks, like Jesus Walks, or hell, even Yeezus itself, it's sort of like it helps build character as to like who he is as a person. It wasn't like his entire focal point of like who he was as a man. And I think with this, he was trying to like reinvent himself to be like that full Christian man, but the execution of that didn't really work out well. It could have worked.
Yeah.
It just I feel like it got too big for its britches and it wasn't fully there.
I feel like that's how that kind of thing tends to go a lot of times.
Yeah. Maybe in another universe he got another album that was like this and it hit the walls, it hit the world. Everyone loved it and then Kanye continued to make awesome Christian music. But unfortunately, we do not live in that timeline. And for the next album will be a very turbulent, extremely turbulent time for both Kanye as a person and as an artist. So we'll see you next time for Kanye's most bloated yet biggest album to date, Donda.